Curbelo. Good morning, Mr. Curbelo.
Bill, good morning to you and to Chuck. Happy August.
Mr. Congressman.
Well, we'll get into what's going on in Washington in a few minutes, but some interesting progress you made. The Make America Secure Act, it passed the House last week, and you had an amendment on there that has pretty important local interest, doesn't it?
So that is a big deal. A lot of people in the Keys are probably familiar with the Florida Keys Water Quality Improvement Program. This is the years-long program over a decade now to improve the sewage systems, water treatment, basically to keep the water around the Florida Keys clean for the benefit of the environment, water quality, safety, all of the above. So we got an amendment passed that will plus up the account that funds this program. So although we don't have earmarks in Congress, Bill, we can move money around in ways that help our local communities. And I was very grateful to the chairman of the committee, Mr. Simpson of Idaho, for agreeing to the amendment. It passed by voice, so we didn't even have to have a vote on it on the floor. And I'm grateful to all my Republican and Democratic colleagues for helping me get this done. Now, of course, we have to continue following this because this goes over the Senate now, and we need to make sure we keep that commitment there as well. But things look very good, and I do foresee some increased funding in the next budget for these purposes.
And there was also some funding in there for research and development into energy. Is that right?
That's right, and we also defended a lot of pro-climate amendments that recognize the importance of environmental policy, increased research for renewables, for new technologies that will make us more efficient. So there's a lot of good in these bills. They're not perfect because this was a large spending bill, 4 bills grouped together. But there's some good news in there for the Florida Keys and for all of South Florida.
Mm-hmm. Now, you are going to be in the Keys tonight, aren't you?
National Night Out. I'll be making, I believe, 3 stops on the way down to Key West tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. It's a very just nice gathering of people, very laid back, and an opportunity to just interact with residents and find out what's on their mind and just have a good time. So I invite everyone to make their way out. There are a number of different events throughout the Florida Keys. I don't know exactly at what times I'll be stopping at each one, but I look forward to stopping at all of them. And then tomorrow I'll have some meetings in the Keys, visiting with the Coast Guard, with the Keys Federal Credit Union, also visiting, speaking at an event with the Key West Business Guild, Florida Keys Community College Renewable Energy Program, making a stop there. So busy day in the Keys, and I'm just happy to be back home for a while, Bill. As you know, the House will be out for a few weeks, and that gives us the opportunity to reconnect with residents and to take all these important meetings and just get feedback on how we could be doing a better job.
And you're also going to be meeting with some local fishermen as well? Is that right?
Yes. Yes. I'm looking here through the calendar, and we do have that meeting as well. So we have a lot of meetings, and we'll have a lot of unscheduled meetings that happen to pop up. People find out I'm in town and reach out to Nicole, and we end up getting together. So it should be a good day today and tomorrow.
And you're meeting, you said, with the Coast Guard in Key West. What's happening there?
Well, I just want to get an update from them and find out how their operations have shifted after the change in the policy that dealt with the Cuban migrants. I know for sure that has freed up a lot of their resources. I want to find out from them how those resources are being deployed, how perhaps they're being more effective, perhaps more focused on drug interdiction and on other responsibilities now that this burden of tracking migrants has been significantly reduced.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Washington politics. First of all, the health bill, Trump Care, didn't make it through the Senate. Now, we saw Senator John McCain come back and make a very spirited speech there on the floor. You had a chance to talk to him, didn't you?
I did, Bill, and let me tell you, it was one of my most special experiences in Washington, and very rare that I had some free time. We had just finished voting in the House on a procedural motion, and I noticed that the Senate was in the middle of that dramatic vote to proceed to the health care bill. So I said, let me walk over there and see what's going on. And I walked into that chamber because we are allowed on the floor of the Senate. I'm not allowed to go into the well while they're in session, but we're allowed to stand back near the wall. And 5 minutes after I was there, John McCain walks in. All of the senators stand up, welcome him. They each start going one by one, Republicans and Democrats, to embrace him. Obviously, everyone's very concerned about his brain cancer diagnosis. And after all the senators had gone up to him, I took my turn, and I told John McCain that I had snuck into the chamber because I wanted to say hello to him. I wanted to greet him, and I also wanted to remind him that our country really needs him. Our politics is very unstable these days, and John McCain, whether you agree with him or not, everyone recognizes his commitment to our country, the fact that he's a hero, that he nearly sacrificed his life for this country. So I think he's a voice that's very necessary. And I think when people are sick and going through tough times, it's important to remind them that we need them, that they are important to us. And John McCain certainly is. And he expressed his gratitude to me for being there and had some other nice words for me. So it was just a very, very special moment. I was glad that he voted to have this debate on health care because I think the debate was very important. And I also respect his decision that the legislation that was being considered was inadequate. And I agree that now we should find a way to work together across party lines to reform health care in our country because the end goal is to have a better health care system and to have a discussion about health care apart from this question of Barack Obama's legacy. I think some on the right have been obsessed with destroying it. Some on the left have been obsessed with defending it at all costs. Let's set that aside and let's fix our country's broken healthcare system.
Now, you are a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus, group Republicans and Democrats in the House, and they released a bipartisan health care plan yesterday. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, a couple important things in that plan. Number one, we want to stabilize the markets. We know that there's turmoil in the healthcare markets. A lot of counties in our country have no providers left. Many counties, I think at least a third, are like Monroe County, where there's only one provider left. And, of course, one provider means no choice, and no choice usually means higher costs and lower quality. So that has to change, and we want to stabilize the markets. We also want to guarantee the funding of the cost-sharing reductions. These are funds that are provided to lower-income Americans, help them make their copay their payments and also their deductibles. Without these cost-sharing reductions, a lot of these low-income Americans would not even be able to access the exchanges. The other thing we want to do is provide some regulatory relief. We know the employer mandate is very strict, and a lot of small businesses are suffering under the mandate. They're cutting wages for workers, and in some cases, they are not hiring new workers. So we want to provide some regulatory relief there, bump the full-time work week back up from 30 hours to 40 hours. That's another provision that's hurting a lot of workers because it forces employers to limit the hours, the amount of hours they can work. So it's a healthy mix of Republican ideas and Democratic ideas to make this healthcare system work better. And I really think that's where our focus needs to be now. Republicans obviously had the burden of trying to do this because we as a party campaigned against the ACA and focused on all of its flaws for 7 years. So we did have a responsibility to try to change it. But that hasn't worked out. So we must work now with our Democratic colleagues and just deliver a better health care system for this country.
Mm-hmm. Got to ask you about the revolving door at the White House. Scaramucci out, Kelly in, Spicer out. What do you make of this?
Every week's an adventure, and politics, Bill, as I've told you many times, should neither be interesting nor entertaining. It should be sober. It should be boring. It should be about effectively completing the people's business. And regrettably, politics is making headlines for all the wrong reasons these days. I do welcome the hiring of General John Kelly. We know General Kelly well. He was the commanding general at Southcom for 5 years, so he knows our community well. He lived here in South Florida. He is a man of discipline. He's a man of seriousness. He's a man of integrity. And already he is having a major impact in the White House. I agree with his decision to dismiss Mr. Scaramucci, the recently hired communications director. It's someone who I think embarrassed really the entire country with his conduct early on. And General Kelly made his impact felt yesterday in a very strong way by dismissing this man only 10 days after he had been hired. I truly hope that the president will listen to General Kelly. General Kelly ran Southcom. That is a massive operation. He is extremely talented, and he can help this White House focus on serving the country, on healing the country, on trying to bring Republicans and Democrats together for the good of the country. That is what we desperately and sorely need, Bill. And I am hopeful. I'm not going to make any guarantees because General Kelly has a very tough job ahead of him, but I'm very hopeful that he can make that change.
A reasonable voice in the White House. We'll see how long that lasts.
Hopefully a long time.
Congressman Carlos Curbelo, thank you for joining us today. Look forward to talking to you.